All right, let's bring in Nick. It was at Levi Stadium. So good. Gets me fired up.
Shout out to Logan Frost. Starts Sandburn over Edmonton. That's funny.
Nick, do they have the keg in the press box or not?
If they do, I haven't found it, Adam. That'd be really good right now after watching whatever that was in today's game. But I can't say that they do have the keg, so that's unfortunate.
Nick, could you tell that the Bears locker room that they had just lost?
Oh, oh yeah, you definitely could. I think the big thing here, there just wasn't people really available even before we got in. Like guys were leaving. Keenan Allen left before we ever got a chance to enter the locker room. So did Travis Homer and um yeah, so the guys were leaving before we even got in, and then when we got in, you guys, it seemed like a ghost town. Like even I didn't even see Cole Kmet in there the entire time we were in the locker room. So it's like I think when you lose the way you did, all three phases didn't show up. It showed up in the locker room too, and some of the answers that we were getting from these Bears players, it's almost like copy and paste from every other loss. So you could definitely tell Mark that the Bears had just gotten blown out by the San Francisco 49ers.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Nick. Who gets a gold star that actually hung around? I know we heard from Byard, we heard from DJ. Who else gets a gold star?
Yeah, I mean, there were guys that did stay, like TJ, Tremaine Edmonds, Montez Sweat, Braxton Jones. So there's some Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. So guys, there's some gold stars to be handed around, but this is the NFL. Like we're not giving out gold star, little participation award, for doing your job here. Like this is what happens. In bad losses, you need to be able to be there and talk about it. And good wins, you're obviously going to talk about it. So obviously, not too many guys were available after this one.
So, Nick, for you, what was the most disappointing part of this game for what the Bears did or didn't do?
Well, just I think back to Thomas Brown and his messaging to the team earlier this week, wanting to play with physicality and violence. Like that was something that it felt like players were latching onto. I don't know about you guys, but did you see that physicality? Did you see that violence on either side of the ball today? And for me, I didn't. And that's what I think is so disappointing that you try to send this message to this team and it didn't carry over for whatever reason. And like one of the guys I was talking to today was TJ Edwards. Almost every single question that was asked, he responded with there was lack of execution. This is week 14, man. Is it the lack of execution on you guys? Is it on the coaching not getting to the players? Like, why is the lack of execution still a thing this far into the season? So that I think that's what would be most disappointing was that where was that physicality, that violence that Thomas Brown talked about wasn't anywhere in all three phases today.
So Nick, I mean, for you, when you see how this season has unfolded, I mean, how much worry do you have? I mean, I didn't expect the Bears to let go of the rope as hard as they did in this game, but you've got 4 games left now. So, like, how do you, if you're Thomas Brown, how do you try to extend the same message you had this week, which clearly, as you said, didn't resonate, and then take this into the last 4 games to where, guys need to be playing for pride, and it doesn't seem like there's very much of it going on right now in that locker room.
Yeah, no, it's tough, Greg, because like hearing a guy like Montez Sweat, this isn't the first time I've heard him sound dejected and defeated. Like this is, now just another time added on to the previous times already. Like he was asked a similar question, how do you keep this group on task for 4 more games? He said, we're fighting for our resume, our pride. Well, it's one thing to say it right here after a bad loss. Now you have to go through a week's worth of practice, put it together and show up, next for your next game. So I don't know what it's going to take, Greg, to get this team to actually start playing, even though obviously playoffs this season's already down and over with. Like you need to see it on Sundays. We're just not. So I don't know what Thomas Brown, what different messaging is going to have to put out there, but the violence, physicality one, I thought they would, latch onto it and actually use it on in today's game.
What did Montez Sweat have to say? Because, I was 2 weeks ago where he was openly talking about how frustrated he was that he, didn't have the production this season. He had maybe one of the more easiest sacks that he could have had today, and it just somehow Brock Purdy slipped right out of it. I'm just curious where he's at right now.
Yeah, so like I said, he just sounded kind of defeated today. It was which latest loss was it where he sounded very similar? Honestly, they kind of all run together. But he said the message from Thomas Brown. He's asked what was the message from Thomas Brown. He said nobody's going to save us. That's what Thomas Brown said to them. And he's like, we're grown ass men. Like we have to go get back into it week into week out and week in and get back to work. And then he was asked, "What do you need to do to ensure like this type of loss doesn't happen again?" And Montez was like, "Well, if we had the answers, then we would have different outcomes." And I guess that's true. But then he was also asked, like, "How do you process this year?" I think Courtney Cronin asked Montez, like, one, how do you feel? And I think she just saw what I was saying, like. He seems pretty defeated. How do you feel and how do you process this year? And he said that it's definitely been a tough year. It's had like life, it has ups and downs, but he has confidence that they're going to get this thing right, ellipses, eventually. And so you just have to stay positive here. And when asked what makes you positive that things are going to change, he's like winning. And so that was really the interview with Montez Sweat. It wasn't very long. I thought he was trying to bounce around, not trying to get to us, but he eventually spoke at the end there. But again, like I said, Montez did sound defeated. And this isn't the first time that's happened. And obviously, he signed a big contract. Here's a focal point for the Bears defense, probably not having the production that he envisioned up to this point in week 14. But I think all these losses are starting to weigh on these guys.
What about Braxton Jones, Nick? He tends to be a pretty honest guy in these situations.
Yeah, no, he definitely was. And, I asked him about the messaging that Thomas Brown sent to this Bears team leading up to this game about the violence, physicality. I just asked him, do you guys feel like you played with that enough physicality and violence? And he said you can only speak to him for himself, but he mentioned he could be better, could have been better intent on some plays. But, I think for Braxton Jones, he's always going to back up his teammates. And he said, that he saw guys flying around, but it just wasn't obviously enough. And he was asked, like, how do you explain the slow starts? And I think his answer kind of says everything. When he was asked, how do you explain the slow starts? There was a sigh, and then he said, "You don't. You don't explain them." And said he might not be the best guy to ask because being an offensive lineman, he's just trying to go out there and execute and do his job. But yeah, I think it wasn't just Braxton Jones that didn't have an answer. DJ Moore also, didn't clarify exactly why the slow starts are happening. Roma Dunze couldn't identify him either. Even Caleb Williams at his presser couldn't pinpoint exactly what's going on with these slow starts, but they have been happening every single game of this season. So they have 4 more games to maybe correct some of those slow starts, but you're running out of time here.
I don't know if I love him saying I'm not sure I'm the best one to ask because I don't know. My exposure to football is the offensive line is a great place to come out and set the tone early on in games, and so all right. Anything else we're missing here, Nick?
Just real quickly, I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to Caleb or what he had to say in his presser yet,
Yeah.
but what'd you say, Adam?
Yeah, we heard the press conference.
Okay, I thought it was interesting though about the communication. Patrick Finley asked him about it, like, was it different or the same with Thomas Brown, obviously being on the sideline? Um, as Caleb was starting to unwrap that question and starting to answer it, he said obviously the biggest difference was talking to Thomas Brown face to face, which is obviously different, but then he said all these promotions, people being promoted to new jobs, they have to deal with new things. All these little things he said matter. And when you add more to people's plates than what they're already doing, some of those mistakes are going to happen. So obviously, like if you kind of go into that answer, you're like, well, obviously there was some communication errors that probably happened throughout the game, just because of the new roles that people had to take on with everybody getting promoted and moving up. Like I saw Kerry Joseph on the sideline, and so I think that was the thing too. We were wondering if was Kerry in the box or on the sideline. Going with my Zoom camera, I'm like, that looks like Kerry Joseph on the sideline. So I wonder if somebody else was in the box or how they kind of did that. But obviously there was some miscommunication going on for this Bears team, and it's expected to happen when you have all these promotions and Thomas Brown going to his first job as interim head coach.
That's a good point. or the fallout from the game. All right, Nick, appreciate it, man. Safe travels home, and we'll see you when you get back in town.
So I know we talked real quickly about like the ice cream. If they won, we would eat ice cream. There is still ice cream available. Does this seem like a good time to get ice cream, or do I avoid it and save this root canal that's probably happening right now in my mouth and not do that?
You should probably eat it, man.
I would go nuts.
Eat ice cream and candy
And Taco Bell.
until you're fatter than me, and then don't leave.
Are you good?
You're not allowed to leave that building until you're fatter than me.
Are you taking us to the ice cream?
Oh, man.
Oh.
Just rubbing it in at this point.
There it is.
Yeah, but that's not.
There's one last Twix in there. I love Twix. But what were you saying,
Clean
Mark?
them out, Nick.
You know,
Start putting it all in your backpack.
as good as Snickers.
It might
We're
melt,
gonna-
though. That's,
Nick- Nick's like,
Snicker bar.
Nick's like, I'm gonna leave here with something.
actually, look, to be completely honest, they had a bunch of snacks. I still have a bunch of snacks. Those are coming back with me in the suitcase. I'll be set for this 4-hour flight. I'm good.
Take that candy cart and wheel it out with you.
Well, I'm a little disappointed. I thought we were talking about like a soft serve machine packaged. I mean, it's fine, but you know you're the San Francisco 49ers.
Now you're being
Soft serving king over here.
Yeah, get some hot.
are used to Soldier Field.
Okay,
They'll take what they can get.
you go to a Bulls game.
They used
They
to-
got
they
the
used to
chocolate. They got the
Mice
vanilla.
in the
This guy was hanging out with a mouse in the Soldier Field press box.
yeah with Ratatouille.
Great movie.
Nick, travel safe. We love you.
All right, you guys.
I took Corey Wooten down on the ping pong table so he can shut his mouth too.
Oh, we're 1-1 as the last two games.
1-1.
Yeah, the past two. Okay.
All right, you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.